Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Lynn Tunget. I'm the owner and editor of Newport This Week. I'd like to welcome our viewers to this forum. You will be hearing from 6 of Newport's at-large candidates who are having September 8th primary races. There are 12 candidates in all in this primary. Voters, when they go to the polling locations, will vote for 4, and 8 will move on to the November election. This forum is a collaboration between the Alliance for a Livable Newport, East Bay TV, Greater Newport Chamber of Commerce, League of Women Voters, Newport Buzz, Newport This Week, and W80K. The purpose of the collaboration is to inform the Newport County voters. I'd like to point out that the positions held by any one of them do not represent the viewpoints or opinions of the others in this group. It is also important to note that the Alliance for a Livable Newport, the League of Women Voters, and Newport This Week are nonpartisan and do not endorse candidates. The forum recording can be viewed through the links of the collaborators' websites, social media, on public access television, and for listening on W80K radio. Candidates are invited to follow up with W80K or Channel 17 to expand upon their views and insights tonight. Tonight's questions have been a combined effort of ALN, the Chamber of Commerce, and other members of the collaboration. Again, thank you to the candidates for participating, and we encourage viewers to watch for upcoming forums for both the primary and general election. At this time, I'd like to introduce tonight's moderator, Bruce Newbury, radio host for W80K. Bruce, over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn. Good evening from virtual Newport. And we look forward to hearing from all of our at-large candidates for Newport City Council this evening. We'll start with each candidate giving an opening statement. Names were drawn at random for order. We have the 6 candidates: Lynn Segley, Beth Cullen, Olga Enger, Elizabeth Fuerte, Kevin Michaud, and Susan Taylor. Now that's alphabetical. That's not the order in which you'll hear from them. We drew in a carefully curated drawing a few moments ago, and you'll hear from our candidates in the order in which they were drawn, and then at the end you'll hear them in reverse order. So let's begin. For all watching, here's an overview of the forum. It'll last about an hour and will consist of 4 parts. You'll hear from each candidate with a 90-second opening statement. As I said, names were drawn at random. Then there will be 5 or 6 questions. Candidates will have 60 seconds to respond to each question. Then there'll be a few yes or no questions, with the candidates raising their hands to indicate their responses. And then the forum will end with 90-second closing statements from each. Susan Wells and her husband Roger are our timers from the League of Women Voters, and they will be monitoring the timing of responses, with one operating a stopwatch, the other signaling with a yellow card, and one of them has a club. Not really. When each candidate has 15 seconds remaining, you'll see the yellow card. When your time is up, you see the red card. Don't make them get out the club. And if a candidate does not stop speaking, well, we lower the boom and mute you. Your water gets shut off. So let's get underway here in our Newport at Large Primary Candidates Forum this evening. And first up, let's hear from Elizabeth Fuerte.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Fiorte. I am a long resident in Newport for over 20 years. One of the things that I would like to focus on if I am elected is instituting policies, sort of like the community benefits agreement, that can be a tool to ensure that residents are participating in conversations that truly affects them. Another thing would be attainable housing, is something that we need in Newport. And also I would like to focus on the inequities that exist in Newport and how we can put policies in place that will ensure that we stop racism and also including all people with diverse backgrounds.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Next up for an opening statement will be Kevin Michaud.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kevin Michaud. I'm a resident of the 3rd Ward. I grew up on Garfield Street, which is located in the North End. I was born and raised in Newport, and I've lived here for most of my life other than a quick stint in Middletown and North Kingstown. Even though North Kingstown was only 20 minutes away, I quickly realized that living out of Newport wasn't for me. Since then, I've had the privilege to live in different neighborhoods in the city, the North End, Lower Thames, 5th Ward. They've all been great. I currently work for the Rhode Island Airport Corporation. I'm the emergency communications supervisor, and I've been employed here for 17 years. I'm also the assistant manager at Easton Speech, and I've been there for the past 3 years. Let me tell you why I'm running for council at large. I love helping people. It's why I chose to be in the public safety field. Now I want to do more. I want to take my personal experience and the 17 years I've dedicated to helping people and apply it to what I think is the greatest city in the world. I've always held Newport on a high pedestal, and I firmly believe that there is no reason we should not have the best municipal services, best school system, and the best economy in the state. We have great residents. We just need to make the right changes to move Newport forward into the future. I've talked to many residents, and so far during this process, I've been overwhelmed with support. I've gained an understanding that most residents feel the same way I do. We need fresh faces and some new ideas on the city council. I will be a councilor that will take all residents' concerns into consideration and a councilor that will make well thought out decisions that are as fair as possible for all residents and business owners alike. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Now let's hear from Olga Anger.
Hi, my name is Olga Anger. I am running also for Newport City Council at large. Some of you might already know me. I was a reporter here in Newport for close to 10 years, and I currently own Studio Newport, a photography studio off of Broadway, downtown Newport. I am also a mother and I'm a homeowner. So I have studied these issues for close to 10 years, and as a business owner, I have experienced the challenges for close to 3 years. And I share your concerns as a mother and a homeowner. So I am now ready to become part of the solution. I'm ready to hit the ground running. I have the energy to do the work and to put in the time. So again, my name is Olga. If you're on Facebook, check out my Olga for Council Facebook page, or if you're not on social media, olgaforcouncil.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Olga. Next, we'll hear from Susan Taylor.
Somebody had to do that, right? I hope I can start fresh, sorry. For 4 years, I've been privileged to serve on the City Council. In the last term, we've had robust discussions and disagreements on the Council, which you haven't seen in recent memory. I'm proud of our effort to open up the workings of Council business to the public eye and to encourage public participation. I'm proud that we hear from all points of view on the Council, including dissenting voices, before we vote our best judgment to enhance the quality of life in Newport for all of us. As we now endure this pandemic and the resultant harsh economic downturn, we all, every one of us, need to be involved. I'm excited to seek a 3rd term to continue this exciting work for Newport, and I'm thrilled to be competing in a field of 12 engaged citizens who've decided to step up and run. This allows the voters some real choices. What I'm most proud of is the work we've just begun for long-range planning. We've seen how a robust planning process could look, one that strives for full participation, which we saw through the North End Urban Plan. As for the work ahead of us, I spearheaded the initiative to commission a master transportation plan and a green and complete streets ordinance. I believe Newport would also benefit from a waterfront zone to protect what we love. I ask for your help, your ideas, and your vote to continue this work.
Thank you, Susan. Now here's Lynn Segley.
Yes, hi. I'm Lynn Segley, and as the current 2nd Ward representative, I have worked on a multitude of quality of life issues such as parking, speeding, traffic, noise, short-term rentals, and others. I am an active participant in the community. Recently, I have been volunteering to distribute masks downtown during the recent pandemic on Bellevue, downtown and Cliff Walk. And I am also a parent of alumni of Newport Public School children. And I certainly understand the importance of children feeling connected to their community. Since elected in 2014, I have worked with 15 neighborhood and community groups to understand residents and business concerns. After much thought, I have decided to run at large to represent all Newport residents. It is truly an honor to represent the residents of the Second Ward. I am proud of my responsiveness to the residents, and I pledge to be the same responsive and responsible counselor for all Newport residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn, and we'll conclude our opening statements by hearing from Beth Cullen.
Hello, I'm Beth Cullen, and on the ballot I'm Elizabeth Evans Cullen, so everybody needs to, and including myself, know that my real name is Elizabeth. We've lived in Newport since 1991. My family's been here since the 1880s. I have been very involved for the last 25 years volunteering in town. I was the president of the Point Association. I've done a lot of work with Newport Public Schools. I was the vice president of the Newport Public Education Foundation when we renovated Thompson in 2002. And since then, I've done a lot of work with the children there, volunteering and mentoring. And I was the co-founder with my husband Mike and Councilwoman Lori Shaw of Next Door Newport. We brought it from San Francisco when it was in its infancy. It's grown to over 9,000 participants. So I really believe in connecting community, connecting neighborhoods, civic activism. So why am I running? My son is a senior in high school. He'll be going off to college. So that I have the time, full time, to be a very active city council person. And I have the tenacity because I like to ask a lot of questions and I like to not take no for an answer. A lot of times we hear, well, we can't do it, so we just don't do it. I believe in historic preservation. I believe in respecting our waterfront. And I look forward to talking more with everybody this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. That wraps up our opening statements. Now we'll move on to our questions. I will ask several questions. All of these questions, each of them have been composed, submitted by the collaborating organizations, and each of you will have 60 seconds to respond. We'll start with our first opening statement candidate with the first question. The second question will start with number 2 on the list, and so forth. So we'll begin with Elizabeth Fiorte. And Elizabeth, the question, you'll begin, and then each of then we'll have answers from everyone else. The question number 1 is, what is your vision for the North End?
My vision for the North End is to see a part of the city that is completely part of the rest of the city, that there is no divide, and that even with the off-ramp of Newport Bridge, that there's a way that it doesn't divide them or segregate them anymore. Easy access to the rest of the city. I envision a North End that has attainable housing. What that I mean is no more low-income housing, but not so much high-income housing, but in middle-class housing that will help our workforce live there, and beautiful North End that we can make revitalized.
The question is, what is your vision for the North End? Kevin Michaud, you're next. You'll have 60 seconds. Go ahead.
So the North End is pretty near and dear to my heart. Grew up in that section of town. It's always been somewhat of an eyesore when you come off the bridge and you see a big sign that says slots, or now you see an empty parking lot. So really anything could be an improvement out there. That being said, we need to integrate private businesses, get some more economic development out there, but we also need to connect the North End to the rest of the city, whether it be walkways or bike paths, which are already part of the bridge realignment plan. But most importantly, we need to let the processes that happen to make these things happen work out. So that being said, Carpianato came up with a plan for that area, and they weren't allowed the opportunity to have that play out. If we let the zoning process and the planning processes play out, we'll be much better off out there in the north end.
And next, we will have Olga Enger. Olga, you'll have 60 seconds. What is your vision for the north end?
So if anyone knows me personally, they know that I love the North End. I'm always at Miantonomi Park. I live downtown, I live in the 3rd Ward, and so that is such a special place. So the one thing that I would ask if I was on council, if I'm elected on council, is that we're very careful to keep that special, to keep that open space, because it's just such a unique area to Newport. I live in the hustle and bustle that gives you a headache, and when you go out there, you have the trails, you have the parks. It's amazing, and I agree with, of course, one Newport. You have to feel like you're driving across the highway just to get there, and it doesn't feel like you're still in Newport. So we need to connect, and we just need to be very deliberate to keep that a special place.
Susan Taylor, you're next. You have 60 seconds.
Such a big question for 60 seconds. We wanted the city to do the city's zoning and not have the Carpianato group come in and propose our zoning for us. And that's why we did the moratorium. And that's why we have led to the North End urban plan. And I respect that process. I think we are coming out of it with a product that reflects community engagement. I hope there's a different question for the community benefits agreements, because I would like to talk about that. What I personally would like to see in the North End is a vibrant location for businesses. And I'm talking about businesses running the gamut, from our tradesmen to small businesses to innovative technology, startups and established businesses. We do need to look at better broadband opportunities for our businesses. I want to see green and complete streets, which will provide alternative modes of transportation. I'll stop there.
And next is Lynn Segley, 60 seconds.
Thank you. For the North End, I think the important aspects of it, first and foremost, are job and housing opportunities. I see workforce housing in that area as being very important. We need what would be considered housing that is affordable, but affordable because it's limited in size. And we also need to develop our blue economy, which has to do with our oceanographics, the fisheries, different industries having to do with the ocean. We certainly need walkability and connectivity to enhance the area. I think there's a psychological divide between the two areas, between the downtown area and the North End. And I agree with Susan Taylor that we certainly need a better broadband in that area as well if we want it to be successful.
And here's Beth Cullen. Beth, 60 seconds, vision for the North End.
I agree with everything that's been said, and I want to paint a picture of something that I experienced yesterday. I have a cousin who's a retired teacher in Providence, and she lives on Broadway and off of Federal Hill in Providence, and I spent some time there, and I asked her, I said, I saw lots of families with strollers and arts and cultural kind of funky shops, and I said, how do we bring this to Newport? So MBBJ's plan is fantastic. I sat through many of their workshops. So we want in scale, not big box stores like Carpianato had planned. No more large hotels. We want maker spaces on the first floor and livable warehouse style, loft style housing on the top floors. Lots of trees, lots of walkability, and of course the connection with the north and the rest of the city is vital. I've lived next to it for 30 years, and it's very hard to walk from my house just a mile down the road because the sidewalks are terrible and it's just not attractive. So there's a lot of potential there.
Thank you all very much. Question number 2 now. To assure that preservation of Newport's heritage and character, would you favor tighter ordinance restrictions on development such as waterfront hotels And if yes, how? If you need me to repeat the question, I'll be happy to. We start this time with Kevin Michaud.
That's a tough question. I think we have the ordinances in place currently. I personally am not in favor of any more hotels, but I know they're, with the ordinances the way they are and the zoning the way it is, that there's really nothing that the city can do from a legal standpoint to stop these from happening. So we need to take a look at some of these zoning regulations and probably decide that enough is enough and change those zoning for the waterfront and make it a waterfront area and make sure that we keep waterfront access open. That's also very important with that.
Thank you. Next up is Olga Enger. Olga, 60 seconds.
So would I look at the ordinances? Yes, absolutely. We need to preserve, we need to look at Newport, think towards the future for my son. I always think, what would my son want 40 years from now, 50 years ago, when he's walking downtown Newport with his grandchildren? So it's important to maintain the integrity, because once you go up, you can't go down. You don't go down. But do I support this ban on waterfront hotels? No, I don't, because in some instances it might be better. I live downtown. Would I prefer a boutique hotel over a huge nightclub? Maybe I would. So I'm very sensitive to this issue. I live a half a block from Thames. So I want that waterfront to be there when my son grows up and when he's walking down Thames Street with his grandchildren. It just has to, like everything else, has to be done very deliberately.
Next up is Susan Taylor.
I'll get this. I do firmly believe that Newport needs a waterfront zone, and the planning process would engage our residents so that we can talk about what we think is important to have in the waterfront. And if we, if a hotel, not all hotels are equal, maybe we want some types of hotels, but myself, I would vote for preserving the working waterfront. I think that's one of our greatest tourist attractions. I think when tourists come to Newport, they don't want to walk along the waterfront from one hotel to the next. I think they want to see marine businesses in operation. I think the State Pier, for example, is a real prize, and we've lost a lot of that. We need to find the balance between attracting tourists and maintaining options for our businesses. And some of these problems that are mentioned could be addressed with greater enforcement. Thank you.
The question before us: to assure preservation of Newport's heritage and character, would you favor tighter ordinance restrictions on development such as waterfront hotels? 60 seconds to answer. And next up is Lynn Segley.
This is a difficult question, mainly because, I mean, yes, I think theoretically it would be a good idea to look at the waterfront area, and we have to preserve the integrity of the waterfront. But we also are limited by property rights of people who actually buy those lots. And so people think the council has a lot of say when it comes to these hotels that are on the waterfront, but really if somebody buys a piece of property, they have a right to do with it what they want to do with it. Now, can we change the zoning? And yes, can we create a better balance perhaps? Yes, but I don't think that people sometimes understand that the council doesn't really is not the end all and be all of the discussion on hotels. And so there is a balance. One of the things I would certainly support, which came out of the open space plan, is a boardwalk in front of the properties on the waterfront, so that people can enjoy it.
Next, we'll hear from Beth Cullen.
Hi. I have to say that I think the council does have something to say about how we want our city to look. Zoning, yes, but we have to have a value and a vision statement, and that comes from strategic planning. Newport hasn't had a real, authentic strategic plan in many, many years. There's been a lot of stops and fits, and I think that we have to decide as a community what we want to be in the future. So, three-legged stool, economy, diversification. No, not a lot more tourism. That leg is too long as it is. A lot more of waterfront businesses, as we've discussed. The blue economy, we are the ocean state, we're the city by the sea. So the blue economy is anything that touches the ocean, from aquaculture to boat building to green, to wind power to green energy. So we have to get smart about that. And I know that the city council has a bully pulpit, and you can't just say, nothing we can do about it. That's where we've been too long. It's time to change that and go forward and actually do something to value for the rest of our, for our future.
And now let's hear from Elizabeth Fiorte.
I echo a lot of what's expressed here today. I am in favor of us looking at our ordinances and maybe changing some of our zoning, so that we can find a balance on our waterfronts towards businesses that can be there. The best thing that Newport has is that waterfront views, and it's a shame to just keep continuing to cover it up with large buildings and hotels. Even our tourists will come here and they won't be able to enjoy it. So yeah, I'm in favor of looking at ordinances and possibly changing zoning so that we can find a balance of businesses downtown.
Thank you. Now on to question number 3. Climate change presents a very clear danger to the future of Newport. What specific measures should the council enact to mitigate the risks to the city, to property owners, and to business owners? Again, happy to repeat the question if you need me to. You'll have 60 seconds, and we begin this time with Olga Anger.
So climate change is, I see climate change is very similar to COVID, in that we need to follow, as a municipal government, we need to follow the experts at the state and federal and international levels. So whatever recommendations they propose to us, I think that we should obviously follow. Can city council change climate change? Maybe we can. It starts with the kids. When I go to the parks, I'm hosting a park cleanup. One of the reasons is because I teach my son every single day to make small changes. We can do our part to maybe do a recycling campaign, start with clean streets, clean parks. Just those small incremental changes will impact our future, hopefully. So again, we follow the recommendations similar to how the council has been doing with COVID, and look towards our children. Let's teach them to make better choices than we did.
Next up is Susan Taylor.
Great question. You know, there's the small, the local, and then there are the much larger questions, and who finances it is a big one. The city cannot actually afford to compensate homeowners and businesses when they are facing sea level rise questions. I mean, we need help with that. On the very local level, I would love to see Newport make a push to institute composting citywide. It would lessen the impact on the landfill, which looks at being, you know, perhaps filled and beyond its useful life within 10 years. And it also teaches all of us about the ecosystem and our role and relationship within it. As far as sea level rise, storm surge, I would like our planning department to take a look at this and would follow guidance. I think we need state help and federal help. Thank you.
And next we'll hear from Lynn Segley.
Yes, well, when I think about climate change on the local level here in Newport, I think of sea level rise and how we protect ourselves from it. And one of the things that has happened recently certainly is the tidal gates that have been put on Bridge Street, and also the seawall that's been rebuilt on Washington Street. The Historic District Commission did a really nice job in creating guidelines for raising structures, historic structures, and that's quite important. That actually happened quite a bit after the 1938 hurricane as well. So it's something that has been done successfully. We also need to keep our green space. Keeping the water on the property is a very important thing, and that's exactly what RIPTA did when they created the rain gardens at the bus station. So all of those things the city has worked on, and we will continue to work on.
Thank you, Lynn. The question before us, climate change presents a very clear danger to the future of Newport. What specific measures should the council enact to mitigate the risks to the city, to property owners, and to business owners? And now here's Beth Cullen.
Hi. Definitely it's a problem. We saw that, a month ago when we had that flooding on Connell Highway. That was amazing. So we have to start thinking quickly about how we're going to mitigate some of that. So, excuse me, education, education, education. We have to get our citizens and our kids engaged in the process. Newport Restoration Foundation had something called Keeping History Above Water. They started it here in Newport. So we're talking about our historic assets, our 17th, 18th, and 19th century buildings that we have to really think about, because that is the bread and butter of Newport. People come here for our history. So we could become a beta site for companies that want to come here and test some of their green energy capacities. And we have to think about solar. We have to think about making sure that people aren't covering up their driveways with asphalt. It has to be pavers. There's just a lot we can do. More trees. There's a lot we can do when it comes to climate change and helping. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Next will be Elizabeth Fiorte.
Yes, climate change is significantly, a concern, and it's very important. And we also, are having our beach erosion, destroying our beaches, a sea level rise, flooding sets, therefore destroying over 200 of Newport's, historic buildings located in those flood zones. I believe we should work in hand with the Environmental Commission and other experts to strategically, implement things that we can do now to save a bit of our environment and stop a little bit of the damaging that is happening, and how we can implement those recommendations. And we need to do that immediately.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And now let's hear from Kevin Michaud.
So climate change is affecting everywhere in the world right now, and Newport, we see rising sea levels as probably our biggest concern. The tidal gates that have been added in those two neighborhoods were great. I think there's several other places we could use them. Down in the King Park area, even on a regular high tide, you see the water popping out of the sewer caps down there. That needs to be something we'll look at. We need to continue to maintain and upgrade our water treatment facilities. We need to maybe possibly come up with some incentives for homeowners to tie their downspouts and things like that into rain gardens to limit the amount of water that's going into our sewage system. And that eventually just ends up out in the bay, usually treated, but sometimes not. So clean water, very important for the city to run on. That's it.
Thank you, Kevin. Now let's move on to question number 4. Other than property taxes, what alternatives exist or should be explored to enhance revenues in support of the city? And we begin this time with Susan Taylor.
We would like to look at the hotel and food and beverage taxes and see if we can increase what the city obtains from those taxes. This is a difficult year to ask that. We are dealing with the incredible economic downturn resulting from the pandemic, and it's very, very difficult to think about raising taxes on Newport residents, and I am wanting to turn to some of the federal and state money that is coming as a result of the bills that have been passed federally. Yeah, apart from taxing the tourist industry or businesses, it's challenging. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Next, we'll hear from Lynn Segley.
Thank you. Well, you can't really look at increasing revenues without looking at reducing expenses. And a couple of things that the city has been looking at is cost savings such as net metering, LED lighting, renewable energy sources. And of course, we are a fee-based city, and so we'd have to look at raising some of those fees, but we are limited by the PUC on some of those regulatory fees. One of the things that I would like to see is Newport hiring a government affairs coordinator, someone who will work at the State House for Newport. I think that it's very important for someone to actually educate all of the delegation up there, not just our delegation, but all of the representatives, so that they understand the needs that we have here, including poverty and such.
And next up, we'll hear from Beth Cullen.
Hi. Again, with the three-legged stool, tourism is great. It'll always be part of our economy, but we have something called the Naval Undersea Warfare Center just next door to us where 3,500 people work. Only 6% of those employees live in Newport. We need to start thinking about ourselves not just as a hotel and restaurant economy. We have to start thinking about ourselves as a place where small businesses come to affect what goes on at Newark. Satellite businesses, the blue economy is Newark. Submarines are in the ocean. So it's about how we envision what Newport really is. And I think that we're stuck in this tourism kind of mindset. There's so many other things we can do. Also, retirement is, I think baby boomers now are coming to Newport to retire. They're buying up homes. They bring with them expertise. They have a light footprint. Instead of being the wedding capital, let's be the retirement capital and use that expertise to make our city even more beautiful and livable. And thanks.
Thank you, Beth. The question before us, what alternatives exist or should be explored beyond property taxes to enhance revenues in support of the city? And next we'll hear from Elizabeth Fiorte.
Yes, I, as others have said, looking at taxes that come from the tourism industry, looking from the hotels, looking at the beverage taxes, but we do have large properties in Newport that do not pay taxes. And I think the city needs to tap into those properties that are not paying taxes. And those are ways that can bring in revenues as well. So it's just not fair that the taxpayers of Newport are always fronting the cost of things, but there are large properties that are not paying taxes. And I think the city should take a deeper look into those properties and see how some revenue can be made from that.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Next up is Kevin Michaud.
So revenue has always been one of my biggest things biggest issue with the current city council. I think we need to have a council that looks at the fee structures for everything in the city, including event licenses, all the way up to the percentage of what we get from the hotel tax, which we put a lot more in than what we get back. So we need to lobby the state and make sure that we're getting our fair share. We need to put more property on the tax rolls. We need to take the North End project seriously and allow private industry businesses to come in there with good jobs, good paying jobs, and start paying property taxes more than what's there now. The blighted properties have to go away. The other thing is, like Elizabeth said, we need to come up with some pilot programs to payment in lieu of taxes. I know here at the airport, we have to pay every city and town a percentage of taxes to make up for the loss of the property tax.
Thank you, Kevin. And now let's hear from Olga Enger.
So when I started reporting about 10 years ago in Newport, I saw revenue opportunities in almost every single council meeting, to the point where I actually started to journal every council meeting that there was a potential revenue opportunity, and I journaled it over the years. That's why we need counselors who will think outside of the box and see problems as opportunities. I do not support taxing our restaurants, the meal tax. We can't keep taxing our small businesses. That's the, like it or not, that's the backbone of our economy. Also, we need to diversify our economy. Innovate Newport was a great idea, but now I feel it's the city just plain landlord. It's not innovative. It's not incubating anything. We could relook at that. The building is there when the leases expire. Let's look at bringing in some new business. So yeah, revenue opportunities. I'm gonna stop there because I got dinged.
Thank you, Olga. Here's question number 5 now. The Black Lives Matter movement is being felt in Newport, bringing forth strong feelings on all sides of the issue. Do you believe more actions by the city are called for? If no, explain your position. If yes, what specific actions would you promote? And we start question number 5 with Lynn Segley.
Yes, you know, this racial strife that has happened is really just, it's been happening much longer than we even realize. And, you know, it's something that we need to look at this issue, and we need to educate our students and on it. We actually passed a resolution to encourage the legislature to create a curriculum for our students to learn about Black history. We are also, I'm working on a project with a Port Marker group, and to bring awareness about slavery in Newport. There's also another program which is quite interesting. It's another marker project that one of them was just put on Bowen's Wharf. So I think that by highlighting Newport's history, but also having an open discussion about race and also hiring practices is important.
And next up will be Beth Cullen.
Well, yes, Newport has a tremendous problem with institutional racism and structural bias, and I see it in the schools. Our achievement gaps are some of the worst in the country, not just in the state. Why is that? We have to get kids reading much earlier. I'm an advocate for putting the 5th and 6th grade back at Pell, because I think at Thompson, there's a lot of social issues there, and the academics and the culture climate is at rock bottom. So I've worked with Keith Stokes on the African American curriculum that was passed by the General Assembly in 2014. It's been sitting on the shelf. So it's about can do, let's get it done. Let's make it happen now, because our city is really a tale of two cities. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Now let's hear from Elizabeth Fiorte.
As a Latina woman of color, working for over 20 years with residents that are racially and socially oppressed in Newport, I know very well about some of the inequities that exist in Newport. And we need to do more on how we can offer equal opportunities for all. Newport must first recognize that there is an issue of making that publicly, but you know, we haven't done a good job in Newport of in our books and in our statement, mission and vision statement of the city to state exactly how inclusive we are, how welcoming we are to the diverse population, especially those of our Black and Brown cultures and those that are racially and socially oppressed. We need to do more to publicly state that, not just talk about it. We need to definitely have it statement from City Hall saying that. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Next up will be Kevin Michaud.
Thank you. Yeah, we're very lucky, or at least I was very lucky to grow up in Newport. The diversity in the schools definitely puts us ahead of a lot of other cities in this country on this issue. There's always more we can do. You know, we need to first open our ears and listen to what the issues are and solve them one at a time at a local level. The problems, a lot of these problems with the racial injustice and such, they come from a federal or a state level. And until things are really changed on that level, unfortunately, they may continue. But I really think we're doing a good job in Newport. We know that there are the inequities. The North End is always going to be known as the poorer section of town than the South, and we need to change that. Whether it's through going over the charter and redrawing the lines for the wards so that there's more representation, something like that would be great.
And next we'll hear from Olga Anger.
Sorry, Susan, you're not the only one. Yeah, this is an issue that has been near and dear to me for a long time. I am known for reporting on this issue as a reporter, as a photographer. I was in the George Floyd protest most recently in 2016. I reported on race issues extensively in Newport, and my eyes were opened. And I am so happy right now that finally people are listening, because let me tell you, when I was reporting on these stories just 2 years ago, people weren't reading them. People weren't talking about them. So what we have to do as a city, whether I'm elected as a counselor or I'm just a resident or as a mother, we need to keep this conversation trending. This has to continue on, and we have to take it seriously and use this as a way to start the conversation in Newport.
Thank you, Olga. And now here's Susan Taylor.
Thank you. I've been a civil rights supporter and activist for over 50 years, and we are at a unique, in my experience, moment in time right now. I just want to say how much I appreciate the leadership of the school committee. They are all starting to read this book, How to Be an Anti-Racist. I realize the title may be backward, but it's a great book. And it's not just about Black history at this point. It's about the structural and systemic racism, and it's time for all of us to be curious and to begin to understand the way the system is structured. We need to look at hiring practices within all city departments, the Middle Passage and Port Marker Project, the Slave Medallion Project, and Sankofa, all tremendously important organizations working right here within Newport. I just don't want to see them relegated to anecdotal partners. They need to be central. Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes our timed questions, timers. Excellent job. I just saw that club start to come out once. Excellent job. Now I'm going to ask a series of yes, no questions. Please raise your hand if you agree with the question. Leave your hand raised until I call out your name. And it's very simple. If you agree, raise your hand. If you disagree, raise your hand. So our first question: do you support a homestead exemption for Newport? Please raise your hand if you agree. So we have Olga, Susan, Elizabeth. Keep your hand up, please. Olga, Susan, Elizabeth, Lynn, Beth. If you disagree, please raise your hand. Kevin. Next question. Do you think the ward system should be discontinued and all candidates run at large? If you agree, please raise your hand. And if you disagree, please raise your hand. Kevin, Olga, Susan, Beth, Lynn, Elizabeth. Question number 3. Regardless of the impending vote outcome on a new Rogers High School, would you support the study of a regionalized high school in the future? Yes, yes answers. Raise your hand if you agree.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question one more time?
I will do my best. Regardless of the impending vote outcome on a new Rogers High School, would you support the study of a regionalized high school in the future? So show of hands if we agree. Kevin, Olga, Susan, Beth, Lynn. And disagree? Elizabeth. Thank you. Question number 4. Is your North End vision embodied in part by the current proposal by NBBJ Consultants? Let me read that again. Is your North End vision embodied in part by the current proposal by NBBJ Consultants? If you agree, please raise your hand. And I think we have 6 and 0. All right. Thank you very much. Put your hands down. And I believe, let me check and see if we do have additional time, or if we need to, will we have time for another question or two? I'm not sure who to ask. So I'll go ahead and ask the questions then. I've made an executive decision. So, oh, I was just informed it is closing statement time. All right. So because we chose randomly, we're going to go and reverse the order now, and we'll hear from each of the candidates, and you will have a 90-second closing statement. Just wanted to make sure that it was the same time. We'll reverse the order, and so we'll begin our closing statements with Beth Cullen.
Thank you very much, Bruce. My campaign slogan is a new direction for Newport. And what I mean by that is for a very long time, we've had a lot of the same people running the show. And I think that after a while, you become complacent. And I think it's time for fresh energy in leadership in Newport, both in our school system and at City Hall. We have a tremendously wonderful place to live here, but I'm worried. I'm worried about the high school going in the wrong location and being built for too small of a cohort. I'm worried about the size and scale of the hotels on the waterfront. I'm worried about traffic concerns. I'm worried about economic concerns. Post-COVID, I think we're really going to hit a wall for a while. So we have to start thinking out of the box right now for the future. I will bring to the table, as I mentioned earlier, my time. I have, once Mac is in college, I'm all yours. So full time, I don't have another job, we're retired. I have a lot of talent. And what I mean by that is I've been in leadership positions all around town since for 25 years. And I have tenacity. I have a lot of energy, and people know that I can sometimes ask too many questions, but I think it's better to ask why not than just say, oh, well, that's the way it's always been. I appreciate your vote. At the primary, I am Elizabeth Evans Cullen, number 4 on the ballot. Thanks very much.
And next we'll hear from Lynn Segley.
Thank you. I've enjoyed discussing these important issues to the Newport residents. And if you have any questions or concerns, please contact me at my email, which will be on the screen, ceglie2nd@gmail.com, or my website at segley2ndward.com. I believe a successful city councilor must be responsive to the needs of the residents by answering emails and phone calls, investigating solutions with city staff, and finding resolutions in a timely manner. And the job requires an enjoyment of the process and a dedication to public service. I'd like to thank the residents of the 2nd Ward for putting their trust in me for the past 3 terms. And if reelected, my goal is to be the same engaged and responsible city council member for the entire city. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Susan Taylor.
Thank you, Bruce. I appreciated the way that you read the question about the study of further regionalization, even if the school bond should pass. And the way you emphasize study, I do support the study of regionalization. But in the meantime, I just want to be clear that we need to send a message to our students and our teachers and our neighboring communities that that we are not asking to regionalize hat in hand. We need to send a message to Newport residents that we support a $100 million bond to offer our students a better learning environment. We all want the same things: quality of life for our residents, planning for Newport's economic growth, and planning for Newport's resilience in the face of climate change and other disasters which befall us, such as the natural gas outage and the COVID pandemic. Through all of these efforts, we must work to bring about more equitable solutions so that all of our residents are players in our civic life and contribute to a more livable Newport. I believe all of us must be mindful of systemic racism and its impacts. Please see my responses to the ALN questions for a more nuanced view of my positions. Policy matters, planning matters. We've successfully encouraged greater public participation, and now we need to see that process continue. Please vote. I'm Susan Taylor, and you'll find me at number 12 on the ballot. Thank you.
Next for a closing statement will be Olga Anger.
Wondering if it was me. So after 10 years of reporting, I don't want to sugarcoat the situation here in Newport. I feel that we are approaching a unprecedented next few years. And so that's why it is so important, more than ever before, to elect officials that will think outside of the box, that have the energy to do the job, that understand the job, that, as Lynn said, will respond if constituents call you, if they email you. Also, it's really important, I've been a little disappointed that we need to come together. It doesn't matter if I agree with you but we need to come together to get to solutions. So I'm not gonna make promises I can't keep. I was a reporter, I've covered endless quotes on those promises and half-baked solutions. But what I can promise you is that if you support me, I will support you. Call me, email me, let's work together for a brighter future. And 60 seconds isn't a lot of time to answer these questions. So Olga for Council, you can DM me on Facebook, 401-864-3403 is my cell phone. Call me, text me, I'm really responsive. I'm a business owner and a mom, so I'm glued to my phone. So thank you for having me, everybody.
Thank you, Olga. Next for a closing statement, Kevin Michaud.
Thanks, Bruce. Running for council has been really eye-opening for me over the last few months, learning the process, going out and talking to people, seeing the needs of the different neighborhoods. People are sick and tired and really want to change, I think, in the leadership of the city. I think it's from some of the administrators and the council. It's a very important election. People need to get out and vote. And like they say, if you complain about it, go out and do something about it. So finally, after thinking about running for the last 7 or 8 years, now's the best time. I think it's the best opportunity for me to get my hat in the ring, make a difference for everybody in Newport, and really bring it back to what it was when I was growing up. I'm still proud of the city, but there's a lot of things that we could do to make it better. We need 7 people on the council who can get along, respect each other, not have hours of conversation about topics that should take 5 minutes. It's sometimes embarrassing to watch. That being said, I'm like everybody else, I'm open. I'm glued to my phone, 401-855-5077. My website is michaud4newport.com. Thank you.
And now let's hear from Elizabeth Fiorte.
Thank you. I just want to make clear that my nerves got the worst of me today, definitely in responding to a lot of these questions. But I do want the citizens of Newport to know something of me. I am running for city council at large. I am running because I wanted to be more proactive and be part of the change in Newport. And I kept hearing from the citizens of Newport that they keep asking to be heard. And as for myself and the citizens of Newport demanding to be heard and be included in every decision making, and the cry of needing better and transparent communication from city leaders. I hear you. I want to be part of that. I have 20 years of community organizing experience and working with the community. And one of the tools that I've learned is to listen and ask clarifying questions, but also be the voice of the people. And another tool is that you don't make any commitments or any decisions alone. You do it with people. You do it together, finding solutions together. And that is what I propose to bring into City Hall. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you, everyone. You all did great tonight. You know how great you all did? We're going to give you 2 more questions. But they're just going to be yes/no questions. So your hands will and your brains will all be all that'll be required. We do have a little extra time, and so we want to ask a couple of more of our yes/no questions. So if you're ready, again, we'll do a show of hands. Leave your hand up until we say your name. So, do you think the Columbus statue at Memorial and Bellevue should be moved? Do you agree? And do you disagree? All right, Kevin, Olga, Susan, Beth, Lynn, Elizabeth, all disagree. And one more. Should the North End Newport Grand project be approved as submitted by the Carpianato Group? Do you agree? And do you disagree? All right, so noted. Now, thank you very much, all of you, for participating. You all did great. Timers, thank you very, very much. Our LWV timers tonight, excellent job. And we thank you all. We wish each of you the best. And you see all of our contact information for our candidates is right here on your screen. Feel free to reach out. We hope to hear from more of them in the very future, in near future, these candidates. And of course, stay with us. We have an entire series of candidates forums to present for you. We thank you very, very much for watching, and we bid you good night from virtual Newport.